countdown is almost over. Under 5 hours to go before England take on Denmark in their second group game at the Euros later this evening. To look ahead to the game, we can speak live now to Jamie Carragher. Jamie, really good to speak to you this afternoon. Firstly, what have you made of the tournament so far? Has it been more open, perhaps, than you expected?
Yeah, I think the tournament's been fantastic. More often than not, I think tournaments, don't live up to the excitement, the cagey affairs, and it's probably not really a match for the club game or the Champions League, latter stages. But I don't think you can say that about this tournament. Every game feel like it's got goals in it, excitement right to the final whistle. So up until now, I think it's been a fantastic tournament, and long may that continue.
Yeah, and I mean, long may it continue tonight, I guess. Let's talk about England, because despite a win and a clean sheet against Serbia, they did face a bit of criticism. Do you think that criticism has been fair?
I think it's been a little bit over the top, but I mean that's just the nature of the beast, the media, which I'm part of as well. And I think it always feels over the top, whether it's criticism or praise, because every paper is talking about England, every column or every page is about England. That's not the norm, even for the clubs the size of Manchester United and Liverpool in a normal season, because there's so many other clubs that you're talking about and people are speaking about as well. So I think it always feels like that around the tournament with England, and it's the norm. You go back to the days when I was playing; it was pretty similar as well. But I just think there's probably a slight fear on the back of the second half performance, in terms of the quality and also the fact that England looked a little bit tired, that people are probably fretting and worrying about England's chances going forward, because this is not like a normal tournament that we go into and hope to be there towards the end of the tournament. I think it's a tournament that we all feel like we can win.
And what about the team news then? Because we are expecting England to name an unchanged starting 11 against Denmark. What do you make of that? Would you have made any changes?
No, I'd have played the same team. I think the fact that you put a team together who's never played together before, they win the game 1-0. They're very impressive in the first half an hour of the game. The game drifts second half for could be reasons of tiredness, which might be a worry going forward in the tournament. But I think then to rip that up and start again and do something else different, I think that could just create a little bit of panic within the squad. Does the manager know what he's doing? Someone else is getting a goal, and if that doesn't go great tonight, what do you do to change it again? So I do think it's fair to sort of give this team another chance to put on a better performance, hopefully get the same results. But of course, it's very cutthroat in a tournament. You've got to wait 2 years for the next one, so you've got to be ruthless and decisive when you make decisions. But and that, I think if it doesn't go well tonight, I think that there then could be a case for in the next game that Gareth might make 1 or 2 changes in certain positions. But I think the changes from the bench that he made midweek, I think, helped the team. At the weekend, and I think this is vital that Gareth uses that bench and gets as many subs on as he possibly can, and try and get as much pace as he can on that pitch towards the latter stages of the game.
We've touched on that criticism. There has been quite a spotlight on Trent AlexanderArnold's performance against Serbia. What do you make of it? Do you think it is important to give him a bit of time to get used to that position that he's being played in and playing alongside Declan Rice?
Yes, it's not his position. I mean, and we've got to remember why he's playing there. He's playing there because the options there aren't great, and there isn't great quality in central midfield for England. That's why he's playing there. It's not just a case of, let's just try a fullback in midfield. It's because he's got passing ability, which is world class. That is of no doubt. And England are short in central midfield. Now, the other players that they've got in midfield are good players. Conor Gallagher, I'm a big fan of as a Premier League player. But when you're talking about the highest level of international football, there's obviously still a question mark there. Mainu, I think, will go on to become that and has shown signs of that this season, but he's still a very young player. And at some stage, he may come into the team and replace Trent in there. I don't expect Trent to play central midfield every minute of every game, and if England get to sort of the semi-final or the final. But I think some of the criticism is coming from people who didn't want him in the first place, because he didn't have a bad game. He can play better. He played 2 or 3 fantastic passes, as he does. And we saw the quality in the first half. But then England didn't have as much of the ball second half, and it was doing more defending. So that's not going to be the strength of Trent Alexander-Arnold. So if England are dominant and on the ball, and they've got runners in behind, I think you'll see the best of Trent on the ball. But, we do have problems in central midfield, and that's why Garrett's put him in there. And for me, it's worth the risk, and it's worth looking at, because, as I said, he's got world-class ability on the ball.
And what about Phil Foden then? Because we know what he does for Manchester City. We know what he can do as a footballer. How do England get the best out of Foden?
It's not always about how England get the best out of Foden. Foden's got to get the best out of himself as well, and he didn't have a bad game. He just wasn't amazing. And the position he's playing, I'm sick of hearing people talking about him playing in the number 10. He doesn't play number 10 for Man City. Kevin De Bruyne plays number 10. So Phil Foden either plays on the left or he plays on the right, and he tucks in. And he did well. He did okay at the game. And defensively, I know Garrett's mentioned how far he run and the work he did for the team, but we can't expect him to be amazing every single game the way he was for Manchester City. And I also go back to England's, I think it was a game against Belgium in March internationals, where him and Bellingham dovetailed brilliantly, and Foden played on the left. He come inside, and if you look at a lot of the passages of the game, Phil Foden's almost got a free roll with the ball. He's not just tucking in on the left. Sometimes he's on the other side of the pitch. Obviously, if we had a Monday Night Football, we could really show these type of things and these clips. But what doesn't help is obviously Kieran Trippier playing at left back, who I think played really well. But he's right-footed. When you've got a left-footed player, they provide that width down the side, because it felt like everything was coming down the right side through Saka. So there was nothing really coming down that left side. So, no, I've got no qualms about Phil Foden. He's a fantastic player. But, if it continues how it's going, we keep mentioning Trent, or we mention Phil Foden, eventually, if they don't put in a man of the match performance or an 8 out of 10, if you like, there will be talk of someone else coming in, and there's no problem with that. That can happen, and that might benefit the team going further down the line. But right now, it's I think it's right to keep exactly the same team.
Some question marks over Harry Kane's fitness. He had just the 2 touches in the first half against Serbia. Do you think that was down to Harry Kane or down to the system that he's playing in?
It was down to the system. And I done a newspaper column on that afterwards, because it's no matter who you are as the manager, you can't have everything you want, really. So, because it's not a club game, it's an international game. So you're trying to get the best players together, and not everything suits each other. And Harry Kane likes to drop in, get on the ball, get on the half turn, make wonderful passes. And to get the best out of Harry Kane, he needs real pace around him. And there's not much. No, there is pace around him, but a lot of the players want to come to receive the ball to feet. In an ideal world, Harry Kane would have 2 wingers. So you'd have sort of Saka on one side and Anthony Gordon on the other. And he'd be dropping into that space. But people like Bellingham and Phil Foden are that good a player, you can't leave them off the team to start with. So their players are right to go between the lines, get on the ball. So there's no space there really for Harry Kane to come short and get on the ball. So he's going to have to play, I think what I called on social media at the weekend, is the Erling Haaland role, where you watch him for Manchester City and he just basically is waiting for that chance to come in the box. He doesn't want to get involved in the game, but Harry Kane does want to get involved in the game, but he may have to just change his game slightly. Or eventually, Gareth Southgate might say, well, OK, one of those players who keep floating in the number 10 role has got to stay out of there. Maybe we pick a different player. Maybe that's where you say, well, OK, Anthony Gordon plays instead of maybe Foden. And it creates a bit more space for Harry Kane. So I just think in the group stages, we're still sort of getting to the gist of what the best is for this England team. And no team that starts the tournament finishes the tournament. So there will be changes along the way, whether that's through suspension, injuries, or a manager making a tactical decision.
And there was also question marks about the defence going into the tournament. How impressed were you with Marc Guéhi?
Yeah, I thought he did really well. There's been a lot of eyes on him because he's got a lack of experience. He's not playing for one of the top clubs, so he's not used to that type of scrutiny on his performance, playing the Champions League level against the best strikers. So to come in and, do really well against, a handful, Mitrovic and Vlahovic, I'm not sure if I've got that right there, his name. Actually, the lad who plays for Juventus, we'll call him. He did really well because, as I said, they're a handful, they're powerful. And yeah, I thought him and Stones, dealt with that really well, especially second half.
Talk about Jude Bellingham, star of the show so far for England. What about where his best position is, though? Is it more advanced, do you think?
I think Jude Bellingham's that good. I think he can play any role and still do it really well. I think Gareth wants to play him in there because he's played the whole season there for Real Madrid. And, you know, I know people keep talking about, well, couldn't Bellingham do Trent's role and then you put Foden in the centre? Of course, that certainly could be an option. But when Bellingham played as well as he did the other night, he's played there all season for a team who won the Champions League. I think it would be daft to sort of not keep him in that role, and then he goes and gets the goal. He's the man of the match. So I think that's maybe something to look maybe after the tournament and maybe in the future of Jude Bellingham, because as I said, he's an all-round midfield player, can do virtually anything. But no, I think it'd be very difficult to move him from that position right now.
OK, let's talk about their opponents then, Denmark. What do you expect to see from them? Do you think that they'll be more of a threat than Serbia?
Yeah, they will be. They're a better team. They've got better players. I think they'll be disappointed in the fact they only got a point in the first game out. They're not as good as England, but they've got players that we're aware of, and have got quality and have got real experience in some of the best leagues in Europe as well. So I think it's going to be a really difficult game. I expect England to come out on top, but I think it'll only be by the odd goal.
Yeah, we touched on it at the start, just asking you about what you've made of the tournament so far. If you were to pick out the kind of standouts in terms of teams so far, who's looking good?
I mean, everyone feels like they're looking good at the moment. I mean, I always think a tournament is helped when the host nation does really well. So I'm actually pleased Germany have started well. So I just think it creates an energy and a buzz around the tournament. Obviously, their supporters in the stadium as well. And for me, the thing that I've loved more than anything is watching Musiala of Germany. I mean, I think he's one of my favourite players. I remember him in the last tournament; he was outstanding. I think Germany went out in the group stage of the last World Cup, but he was still fantastic. And watching for Bayern Munich this season in the Champions League, I think we've got a real star. And I think for years we've been speaking about Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi. I think we've been speaking about Haaland and Mbappe for the last sort of couple of years. I just feel like we're going to be speaking about Bellingham and Musiala for the next few years as well, in terms of who's the best, who you prefer. Because, I think he's a superstar along with the fellow we've got.
And Jamie, just finally, you mentioned Monday Night Football earlier. We know you'll be watching Steve Cooper's Leicester on that first weekend. Just got to get your take on that appointment. What do you make of it? Yeah,
delighted with Steve. It's not easy when you lose your job in the Premier League to then get another Premier League job. These are coveted jobs. There's only obviously 20 managers from all around the world, all around Europe. Some of the top managers in world football are looking to come to the Premier League. So he'd be delighted to get that opportunity as well. It's a similar sort of area where the two clubs are as well. So he knows the area well. I remember a game at Leicester, actually. I think we did on a Monday Night Football where Nottingham Forest got a bit of a doing that night by Leicester. And, he apologised to the supporters, I think, Steve Cooper. So he built up a great relationship with the Nottingham Forest supporters, Steve Cooper. So I think they were actually a little bit disappointed when he moved on. So hopefully for him, he can build that rapport as well with the Leicester supporters, because they might have a few problems going into the season in terms of maybe points deduction, what they can do in the transfer market as well. So I think for Leicester to stay up, I think obviously they all need to be together. So he'll need some serious backing from the board and also the supporters.
Jamie, great to talk to you. Great to get your thoughts. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.